everyone, and welcome back to a new video on the 350Z, how to build the perfect beginner drift car build. On this episode we will be actually doing mechanical work to the car, which is exciting. Obviously we have done all of the interior stuff and I'm happy with how that is now. So now it's time to actually do the rest of the essentials on how to make it into a drift car. So obviously a 350Z comes with like some sort of a LSD from factory, but it's not very consistent and there is a chance that the diff will open while you're trying to drift. So what we have done in the past with the 350Z diffs is just weld the LSD. It's not the perfect scenario, but that's what we will be doing. So you have to remove the diff, remove the rear cover and weld the diff. I will show you how to do that. And also this episode we will also try to do extra lock. I need to change the steering rack in the car also, because from the crash that it was in, from the crash damaged car that I bought, the steering rack was damaged. So I'm going to do the steering rack, a little bit of extra lock. We'll also be fitting some BC racing coilovers in this episode, and I'll be showing you how to have your car at a reasonable height and how to set them up and all that kind of stuff. I'll actually just talk you through the list that I just made. So we have to weld the diff, we have to put in our BC racing coilovers, we have to put on a set of Ström wheels and see how it's going to look, make sure that we have good fitment and all that kind of stuff. The extra lock, this is like a debate. I could just leave it as it is because the car doesn't have enough power to drive with big lock, but I'm just going to put a rack spacer, cut the lock stops and give it another little bit. It's not going to be much, but it's going to be enough. Try plumb the handbrake, decat the exhaust, paint the front wing and bumper, steering rack change, post straps, fire extinguisher, and will it drift. So obviously that's a long list. That's not going to be everything that we're going to get done on this episode, but on this episode I hope to do the diff, the coilovers, steering rack and the wheels. And at that point I think we should be able to see if we'll even do donuts or maybe drift around the yard, we'll see. But yeah, we just want to see how much I can get done. Obviously I don't want this episode to be too long. Hopefully we get enough done and you enjoy what we're doing. So now it is time to clear all this mess, get the car from here onto the lift and get to work. So the car is on the lift. Now we're going to have a quick look underneath. This is actually my first time being under the car. First glimpse, everything looks as it should. These cross braces on the 350Z, I must say I've never seen one of them that's not rusty. There's a small bit of rust up here from where the damage wasn't when it had a little bit of a tip, and I think it's after just exposing the metal and then after creating a little bit of a hole, but nothing to be worried about. This side looks fairly good. All the sills and everything are as they should be. Obviously enough, this is the rear diff of the car. So to get this out of the car, we have to undo the prop shaft bolts. There's just 4 bolts here. There is 6 bolts on either cup on both sides of the diff. They don't look too crusty, so that should be fairly handy also. Then there's 1 bolt up here and 2 bolts here, and then that should fall down out of the car for us. And then I will explain what we're doing with the rear cover and where we have to put the welder and all that kind of stuff. I thought I had a tripod to try show you exactly what to do when taking off these bolts and whatnot, but I don't have the tripod unfortunately. So as I'm going, I'll just update you as to what bolts are what basically. Let's get the diff out and let's try get some of the work done today. So we have the front prop off. It actually moves over enough to avoid this, I think, coming down. We also have our 2 half shafts disconnected. There were just 4 17 nuts and bolts on this, and there was 6 14 millimeter nuts and bolts on the half shafts, which now means it's just this bolt, the one on the other side, and this one up here to remove, and then that should come down hopefully nice and handy. Yeah, we're going to get the gearbox jack, undo all the bolts and try lower it down, and then we'll get this rear cover off and show you what we're doing. So we have the diff out of the car. This here is the rear cover that I was on about, which has all of these bolts the whole way around. That is where we have to remove all of these. They're 14mm head bolts. Remove them, and then we will be able to see the chrome wheel and pinion and where we have to fill with weld. As you can see, rear cover is now off. We can see the crown wheel and pinion. This is like your spool of the diff. In here is where we have to weld. So you can see there's a cog there, the cog there. So we need to try basically jam that, and that will allow the prop shaft to turn, and then it'll move the two output shafts for the half shafts together, and it'll be solid. It was not a massive job to get the diff out, to be fair. We're just going to get some brake cleaner, clean all of this, and then bring over the welder and just fill those holes. There's like probably 2, 3, 4 holes to fill. This is how the inside of a diff looks. So basically that guy turns like that, and then the crown wheel turns, which then in turn turns the output flanges for the half shafts. It's time to clean it and get the welder and weld it up, and then clean all that again, fill it with oil, put the rear housing back on, and put it back into the car. So I'm not too sure if you can see that very clearly, but on the crown wheel it has some stamped in numbers and letters. It says 4613, which means if you divide 13 into 46, that is how you get your ratio of the diff. It's very hard to check the ratio of the diff when the diff is in the car. But if you're checking to see what ratio diff you're looking for outside of the car, that's usually the best way to do it. That you pull the rear housing off, it has it on here, you divide the smaller number into the bigger number. So that means that this diff is a 353. So as far as I'm sure, most model 350s come with a 353 or a 32. So I just wanted to double check that myself. But I said while I was checking it, I will show you how you guys can check it also, because not too sure if it's common knowledge or not. Something that you know now. And if you already knew it, you just know again. So that is the first hole welded up. Basically, I'll show you in here. You can see where the cogs meet everything. I just tacked all 4 corners, and then I put in some M8 nuts and just filled the holes, just so it wasn't all weld basically. So at least it has something to fill the hole properly. And yeah, basically it's a matter of repeat the process now to all the holes, and then that is it welded. Shouldn't break. Never had an issue doing it like this before. Just keep welding, get it done, get it back together, and get it back in the car. So now that we have everything welded up, we cleaned out all the diff with some brake cleaner, cleaned off the back cover and put some sealer on it. So now it's just a matter of push this back on to the diff, seal it up, get it back in the car ASAP. We have the diff back in the car, prop back on, half shaft back on, and oil in the diff. So it wasn't a big job, but it did take me most of the day, because we are 6 days out from flying to Hungary for Drift Masters, and today has just been an absolute mess. I've been trying to sort flights and truck drivers and all that kind of stuff, and yeah, it's just one of those things that when you're on the phone for the whole day trying to sort stuff, you don't get a whole pile of work done. But that is the joys of trying to organize everything. But we have the diff done, so we are now going to remove all 4 wheels and going to start fitting the BC coilovers. And this is probably one of the most exciting upgrades for the car, I guess, because not only do the BCs let you lower the car and make it look a bit better, but also just like when you're actually driving, the car feels much more stable, and also just like much nicer on the track. Your transitions won't be as like sloppy as standard suspension. I'm looking forward to get them on. So it is time to get them off of the bench over here and get them unboxed and ready to put into the car. So we have the BC Racing coilovers unboxed, and I have them here on the bench. I'll just do you a quick talk through as to what I do before I fit coilovers to cars, just so everything is kind of perfect. I know the shocks kind of come preset from BC as well, but it's nice just to double check so you have all your own measurements, so you know your preloads, your heights, all that kind of stuff before you actually fit into the car, and then you know that all four are the exact same as well. So what I mean by preloads and stuff, obviously these are your top mounts here, these go to your rear hub here and your front arm on the 350 and the front coilover. Basically preload on a spring is from this height here to this height here. Basically you can have no preload, that when you jack the car up the spring moves. It depends on your application if you need preload or not, but I will be running like probably 10 millimeters preload front and back, just so that when the car lifts off the ground that spring stays tight and that it's all good that way. Also I will just be adjusting from the top mount to this collar here, the same on all the two front shocks, same on the two back shocks, same thing from this point to this point. And then we'll fit into the car, and what we will do is fit all four corners, drop the car down onto four wheels. Then we'll just be able to measure the height that like we kind of desire basically. And because we've checked all the springs and preloads and have our heights like set evenly front and back, we can then adjust accordingly, and we know that when we lower 20 mil on one side that we can just go 20 mil on the other side, and that's going to be even all the way around. To remove the rear shocks, it's literally just this one bolt down here. There's two bolts up on top, and then we remove the standard spring. I probably will upgrade the car to a tow arm, this arm stock, and put like the tension arm. I think this is a bottom camber arm down here, so I'll probably put those arms into it eventually. But for now, the rear suspension is literally just going to be this bolt down here, the two top bolts up here, that shock comes out, the spring comes out, and then fit the rear coilover front. Fairly similar setup. There's three bolts on top up here, and then there's the one on the bottom arm down here. It's just a matter of opening the four bolts on the front, three bolts on the back, and then everything kind of just falls apart. And obviously the BC coilovers are very shiny, very easy to work with, and everything should just fall into place. And yeah, then we can set the height. And I also said while I have the car on the lift, when I'm doing the coilovers, I'll do the front camber arms and the steering rack as well. So this might be a long-winded process of fitting coilovers, but yeah, you get the gist. It's not very hard, it's fairly easy. So we'll get stuck in, we'll get two back ones done, then the two back ones you can put on two wheels. The front is going to take a little bit longer with the camber arms and stuff, but yeah, let's get to it. We got the old coilovers out. It took a little bit more persuasion than I was hoping for. You know, it's not too good when you have to get this thing to remove the rear shocks of a car. The bush in this guy here decided that he wanted to be seized, so that wouldn't come out. And yeah, we just had to cut the bolt, push it out. So a friend of mine who was also building a 350 actually had spare bushes, so he's actually coming over to give me the bushes. So we're going to try push them in, and then we can get the coilovers into the car, because it's not going to be this much of a job, but it's turning into a pain in the ass. So James called with the rescue package and brought on these bushes that he had spare, because he literally just done this exact job to his own 350 last night. So as you can see, we had to push out the bush and then cut the metal sleeve and then just push in the new bush. But James to the rescue. I wouldn't mind. I only texted him asking him where could he get the bushes, because I knew he'd done the job last night, and then he was like, I have two spare, and he's sponsoring them too, which is great. So yeah, this will speed up the job, and at least it's done in one day and not going to take 3 weeks. It's the next day and we have one coilover fitted in. Last night James came and we fitted the new bushings to the car. So we got the bushes in here, and obviously I have one coilover fitted on this side. These bushes are fairly straightforward. You just push out the old one and then you slot in the two bushes and put in your metal insert in the middle. And yeah, then it's a fairly straightforward process from there. Obviously wasn't expecting that to happen last night, and then James came, we fitted the bushes, and then we didn't get much work done after that because we were just chatting. But we've got this corner done, do the other corner, then we move to the front, and we must do a bit more work to the front. Hopefully stuff is not too seized and it'll be okay. But yeah, I don't have my hopes very high now after the first bolt I went to last night being seized. Yeah, at least we can get the back finished and we can move to the front and see how we get on. So to remove the front coilovers, you actually have to move this strut brace to get to the 3 bolts up here, which are the 3 size 12s. And also down here, I have the nut off here, as you can see. It's just a matter of pulling out this bolt, take off the 3 nuts on top, and then there's just this wire here, I think it's like an ABS sensor thing, has to be removed. And also this guy here for the brake line. So the front is also fairly straightforward. I think the strut brace is on every 350, so that would have to be removed. Yeah, we must get them off, and then we can get at the camber arms as well. Fingers crossed they're not seized because they don't look the greatest, but we're going to keep the hopes high until we can get at them with a spanner. And if they are seized, they'll be staying on, but if they're not, we will replace them. Shouldn't be a big job also, but yeah, that's how you get the front old shock off. And then obviously the BC, same thing, comes with new nuts for the top, and then your bottom bolt goes back in to your bottom arm. Yeah, fairly straightforward really, but let's get it off and yeah, get it out of the way. So like I mentioned about the rack spacers, basically all I have got is these, I think they're M14 or M16 washers, and I will be putting them between the track rod and the rack, which basically just widens the track a small little bit. We have this one on here, so as you can see, it's probably 4 or 5 mil. So like I said, it's nothing major, but it leaves enough tread on the track rod. Yeah, that will be our like extra lock. So basically it's the same as like when you put, I remember doing this to my first 180 with James Dean. We were over in the other shed and I was like, how are we going to put some extra lock? And he was like, I have a trick. And I was actually pushing out the center of a euro coin or 2 euro coin and putting it over the track rods basically. So it's kind of a known thing around the world just to put a rack spacer in the car. Gives you another little bit basically. That will allow us to cut our lock stops. I also have front spacers like I was saying for the car, which will widen the track, which will mean that we can like cut the lock stops as much as we can basically before the wheel hits anything. So yeah, this one is on and tight, just put on the other one and then we can get it back in the car. It wasn't much of a job to get the rack out of the car, but you do have to drop this brace, but I couldn't get to the bolt back here. But yeah, it's just this round bracket one here on the bush, and then there's the 2 solid ones here, and just slides up to the column then. Just gonna put on the other track rod, give the knuckle a clean, and then get it back in the car. Then we can do our bit of tracking and see how much lock we can get out of the front of it. Obviously I don't have a comparison of before or after, but we'll know because we're cutting the lock stop that we have extra lock being gained basically. So yeah, let's get back to work and get this done. The day is slipping away.
2,000 years later.
Right, so we finally have the steering rack changed, rack spacers in, all coilovers, front spacers, yeah, basically everything that needs to be kind of done under the car to get it like to the track, because that's obviously the main aim for right now. There will be other stuff in the future that I want to do to the car, like decatting it and tuning it and all that kind of stuff, but I think all that stuff can wait for now because I'll just leave it like in its basic form and just have the setup of it right. So yeah, now I have just got one of Connor's spare wheels here. These are the same offset as what I have in the box over here. I just don't have tires for them right now, so I'm going to be laying on this wheel on both sides just to get the camber correct, and then we'll be centering the rack and adjusting the lock stops accordingly. Yeah, then we can do the height and all that kind of stuff also. So yeah, it's finally time to get it back down the ground. The rack wasn't too much of a job, but it just took a little bit longer than anticipated because there's actually 2 different types of steering racks in a 350Z, which I didn't realize until I went at it myself. So this guy is, I don't know, a regular type 350Z pinion for the steering rack, but the one that was in my car had an electric assist thing connected to this, which meant that this distance here was longer and the steering knuckle from the column then would not it wouldn't reach correctly. So yeah, that was a bit of a pain. I had everything bolts back up. I had to take it all back out again to change the head of the steering rack. Luckily that just swapped out. Yeah, other than that, not too bad. Just need to try get wheels on it, roughly track it by eye on the lift, then leave it down, do the camber all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I must say I'm glad that I get it back on the ground, because the last 2 days have been a bit painful, to be fair. I've just been so stressed with other things, as well as trying to do this and record everything, and still not doing a very great job with it. Yeah, we'll get better. We will. We just need to take our time. Yeah, let's get some wheels on this thing. So we have the 350Z on the ground, and I must say, fairly happy now with how the stance looks at the moment. Tommy Coyle even came to approve. He's a fellow 350Z man as well.
Just checking in on the fitment.
Yeah, do you approve?
That looks fairly good now.
It's not bad now, like, is it?
Sitting pretty good now, yeah. We're happy.
So, yeah, it's on the ground. BCs are fitted, camber arms, bit of extra lock. Obviously, I don't have all 4 matching wheels yet. I'm waiting on a Ström delivery for the rear. You can also see here how much front camber it's after gaining. But yeah, overall happy with the progress of the last 2 days. It's a lot done off the list, and we're a step closer to going drifting, which is fairly soon, thank God. But yeah, that's kind of all for this episode. Hopefully I explained enough as to what I was doing. I actually can't remember what I'm after recording now, but when we're putting it together, I will see what I've missed, and I will try finish it on the next episode, which will probably be plumbing the handbrake and going to the track and driving the car, which is exciting. Yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Again, any questions, just say it in the comments, and I'll do my best to answer for you. Yeah, this looks pretty sick, which is good. Catch you on the next one. Like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff. Thanks for watching.